What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Lo-Fi Film Lounge. Glad you can make it into my little corner of the internet. Today, we're going to be making a tier list of my favorite movie genres. I figured I'd like to do something that kind of lets you guys know what my biggest interests are versus genres that maybe don't hit as hard for me personally. So yeah, without further ado, let's kind of get into this thing and discuss. All right, so for our tier list here, we have the categories of my favorite, enjoyable, average, things that, maybe I'm just not as crazy about, but they could have some potential movies. Hit and miss. Most of the time with these genres, they're not necessarily things I would gravitate towards, but every now and then there could be a hit, something that really rises above the rest of the genre for me. And then not my thing. Very self-explanatory. Just really the types of film where I see that a film is going for that genre, it really just kind of turns me off to it. Again, these are just my personal opinions. Feel free to, leave a comment below of your favorite film genres and let me know how wrong I am. But let's get into this thing. Okay, so starting off, we have Western. Oh boy. Okay, we're starting off with a strong one this time. Westerns. Okay, I have like a love-hate relationship with Westerns. They're not typically my thing. However, they can work for me. So I'm thinking about movies like, so The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly I've seen. I wasn't crazy about that movie. However, I think that climax in that film is incredible and the music is like absolutely iconic. But something like Django Unchained, I absolutely loved. Bone Tomahawk is good. I'm trying to think of some other Westerns that I've seen. I mean, you've got some like neo Westerns, things like No Country for Old Men, which I think is super good. But most of the time when you think of a classic Western, it's really not usually my thing, but I'm gonna put hit and miss. Because I feel like it really is like, again, something like Django Unchained, I absolutely love that film. So even though that genre doesn't necessarily get me excited, it doesn't mean that I'm automatically gonna turn off seeing that movie just because it's a Western. But yeah. Sorry guys, sorry to my Western fans out there. Okay, now we have adventure, which a lot of times this genre gets kind of clumped in with a bunch of other genres. When I think of pure like adventure movies, I think of things like Indiana Jones, even to a point like something like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, one of my personal favorite films. And I love those movies. So even though this is kind of grouped in a lot of times with other genres in film, I love a good adventure movie. I'm gonna say enjoyable. Good stuff there. Fantasy. Okay, so it's interesting to me because if you really think about it, there's not like a ton of like straight up fantasy movies. Like there's not as many as you would think, at least, in my perspective. I mean, you've got The Lord of the Rings, which is, one of the most incredible movie franchises of all time. You've got people like Guillermo del Toro, who does a lot of like dark fantasy, which is super cool. I love that stuff. And I mean, yeah, like you've got some like animated movies, that I could think of off the top of my head. Things like, I don't even know, like The Black Cauldron. Is that a crazy poll? It might be. I like fantasy. I wouldn't say that it's absolutely my favorite thing in the world, but I'll say it's enjoyable. Yeah, that seems right. Action movies. Okay. Here's my thing. I love a great action movie. However, I like my action, this is gonna sound so pretentious and I'm so sorry, but I love my action movies to have like substance. Or like a lot of visual flair. So what I'm thinking of is like, I think my favorite action movie off the top of my head would be like Mad Max Fury Road. Freaking incredible movie. Visually just stunning, right? But even something like Upgrade, right? I'd consider that kind of like a an action movie, maybe a little bit of sci-fi, but by and large, I think that's more of an action movie. Super awesome, like fight choreography and like cinematography. So those are just a couple examples of action movies I really love. However, with a lot of like your, big name action movies, things like Die Hard, even something like, I don't know, I struggled to include Heat in that, because really if you watch Heat, I mean, there's a couple of action scenes in it, but I wouldn't say it's an action movie. But like things like in that realm, I don't really get a lot out of it, honestly. Like it's like, this big budget popcorn and enjoy yourself kind of movie. It's okay. This might get me in trouble. I don't know. We're gonna put this in. I'm gonna put it in average for now. It really depends, right? Again, I just kind of like a little bit more meat on the bone when it comes to action movies, for me personally. But that's my take. Dramas. This can go either way. This is like a 50-50 for me. So you've got some drama. Help. You've got some drama films I absolutely love, like Good Will Hunting. Maybe my favorite drama of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time. So good. Yeah, and like you've got things like, again, you could maybe classify something like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It leans more into the adventure side, but like there's drama in that. There are dramas that I love, but then if a drama is not done right, or if it's not really clicking with me, it's like really not gonna click with me. It's really can come across as like really boring, maybe pretentious, maybe hollow. So it's not necessarily one that I would be turned off by. I'm gonna put this in average for now. Maybe I'll put this in average for now. Because I mean, there are legitimately some dramas that I love, so I think that feels right. War movies, okay. So I'm not the biggest war movie fan, but I feel like I wanna be. And what I mean by that is I watch a lot of these like classic war films. And a lot of the times they don't really measure up for me personally, but like I just really want to love them. Things like Platoon, I'm not really crazy about. Apocalypse Now is really good. I like that one. What's another good one? Full Metal Jacket. I really love the first half of that movie where it's more like a war comedy. There's really not any war scenes. It's all about like the boot camp end of it. But like the end of it, it's like fine, but I just don't love it. I don't know if you'd count Good Morning Vietnam. It's more of like a war comedy, but I freaking love that movie. Same thing with like Tropic Thunder. Again, it's like a big action comedy, so maybe that doesn't count. But yeah, war movies, like I want to love them, but a lot of times I don't. Oh man. Don't hate me, guys. No, I can't. I'll put this in, I'm gonna put this in hit and miss. I'm sorry, guys. Like, maybe I just need to watch a few more war movies. I've got some that are like on my watch list right now that could potentially make me bump this up in the future. But for right now, I'm gonna say hit and miss, but really, that's a genre that I just want to love more than I do. So, maybe in the future that'll go up. Horror movies. Guys, I freaking love horror movies. I just absolutely love what horror goes for, right? It's, and don't get me wrong, I love, your classic horror movies. They're just there for like shock value, but I also love, horror with like, again, kind of like the action movie with a lot of like meat on its bones, with some substance, some visual flair, some themes. But I just love that horror like taps into something so like visceral and almost primal. You know, I'm making it sound crazy, but really, like, it's supposed to be shocking. It's supposed to scare you. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And I just love that cinema as an art form can get those reactions out of you, and do so in an amazing way. And it looks like they used the picture of The Shining for that. I mean, I love The Shining. That's one of my favorites of all time. I'm thinking things like Alien. Jordan Peele, I'm a huge fan of. Nope is incredible. Yeah, I'm a huge horror fan. I love what it goes for. You tell me your movie is a horror movie, like that automatically gets me interested. It's a favorite of mine. Mystery. So this could be a few different things. The things that popped into my mind immediately would be like a lot of David Fincher stuff. So like kind of mystery thrillers. You know, I'm kind of thinking things like Gone Girl, The Game, Zodiac, but even things like kind of murder mysteries like Knives Out or Glass Onion, which I'm a huge fan of those films too. I think mysteries done right are super entertaining, actually. You know, sometimes they're not done as well, and you can kind of like, you know, either figure the mystery out, see it coming from a mile away, or there's like not enough breadcrumbs, and then once the reveal is made, it's like, okay, well, like I never would have figured that out. I'm gonna say enjoyable. I like a good mystery movie. When it's done right, those are like some of my favorite movies. Crime. Okay. This is another one that's like not necessarily my thing, but it's one that I really want to like more. But a lot when I'm thinking of crime, I'm thinking a lot of like these like gangster movies, like mafia type movies. So I'm thinking like The Godfather. I'm thinking Goodfellas. Heat. Heat is a crime movie. But on the flip side of that, you know, you're thinking about a lot of Tarantino, right? Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown. So there are some crime films that I love. I mean, Reservoir Dogs, freaking love that movie. But then there's some like I'm not into a lot of the mafia type films. I like Goodfellas. I would rewatch it and enjoy it, but it's not one of my favorites. The Godfather, I think, is an extremely well-made movie, but it's not really my thing. So, oh, this is hard actually. I'm not inherently disinterested by crime movies. It's gonna be between average and hit and miss. Hit and miss. I'm just gonna say hit and miss because like if you tell me, okay, this film is about like the mafia or like gang culture, that doesn't really excite me, to be quite honest with you. However, you know, you think of things like these Tarantino films or even Michael Mann, like I could get interested in that. I can get into that. So I think it's just very hit and miss. Oh, comedies. I don't even have to think about this one. This is very hit and miss for me. I know I'm like very like backloaded in this list, which is kind of like embarrassing as a film fan. But like comedies have to be, I'm very picky about comedies. I'm not crazy into a lot of like super like raunchy comedies. Every now and then they're good though. I mean, like I like The Hangover. I think that movie's freaking hilarious. But some of my favorite comedies, a lot of Robin Williams stuff. I'm a huge fan of him. So like Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Morning Vietnam. Ben Stiller, I'm a huge fan of. So like Tropic Thunder, I think is awesome. And comedies nowadays, like you don't get as many of them. A lot of times it's more like that genre is kind of blended into other genres, kind of how we were talking about adventure movies. But straight up comedies, I'm just very picky. I'm very particular. Sometimes they're great, but a lot of times they're like really not my thing. So hit and miss definition of. Sci-fi. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I am a huge sci-fi fan. Growing up, I've always been a huge fan of robots and aliens. Both fall within the sci-fi realm, so that's, I mean, I've always been that way. So I mean, there's 1,001 movies I could list off in this genre that I absolutely love. Um, the Iron Giant, Alien, Nope, Wall-E, Tron, right? I'm a huge sci-fi fan. And so like horror and sci-fi are like, a couple of my favorites. So when you have, them horror sci-fi together, like Alien or Nope, oh dude, oh, I'm there. That's all you have to tell me about your movie and I'll go and watch it. So yeah, I am a massive sci-fi nut. So moving on, thrillers. So this is interesting. Thrillers are like horror without the horror, if that makes any sense. It's more about like suspense and tension, rather than actually like scares. Again, I would like reference like David Fincher for this. Something like Panic Room is a good thriller, I'd say. And you could even say things like, for like Christopher Nolan, like Tenet, I think could be classified as like a thriller. Inception maybe as well. I like thrillers. I think they're good. For me, it's a little bit more a step down from straight up horror, but I'm enjoyable. I like thrillers. I'm down with that. Musicals. Musicals for me, I feel the same way as like comedies, right? So it's like I'm very particular, and if I'm not invested in your musical, I'm gonna shut down really fast, right? So like I'm gonna get really disengaged if I'm not into it. However, if you have a really solid musical with like really catchy music and kind of like the music and the lyrics flow with the narrative, I'm thinking of things like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, one of my all-time favorite movies. La La Land, oh, love that movie. Even something like The Greatest Showman, I think that's a good movie. However, if you say your movie is a musical, that does not inherently interest me. So I am going to put this in hit and miss. Hit and miss, yeah. Because it's most of the time, I'd say a lot of times they're kind of misses for me personally. However, when they hit, they hit. So I wouldn't say straight up not my thing. Slice of life. It's interesting that they included this. I would also kind of maybe categorize things like hangout movies is kind of this. So things like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like things like that, where it's more about the characters and we're kind of following them and the different scenarios and situations and interactions that they have throughout the film. Not so much like a driving narrative that moves the plot forward. Not usually my thing, to be honest with you. Like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that's one of my hot takes. I don't really like that movie. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think is like my least favorite Tarantino film. I'm not gonna straight up say it's not my thing, because I think it could work. I'm gonna put it in hit and miss, but very much like a miss. Look at my hit and miss line right now. This is so sad. I'm sorry, guys. Am I even a film fan? I might be fake. Romance. This is like a lot of rom-coms, and then you got things like, shoot, like what? You could consider something like Casablanca a romance, I think, even though it's like very noir. I can get into romance movies. I'm not heartless, guys. I'm not a cold stone corpse. I like a good romance movie. Rom-coms, like my wife has really gotten me into those over our relationship, and yeah, I can enjoy a good one. So especially like the late 90s, early 2000s, like romance / rom-coms, those are like low-key peak. So I'll put it in average. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I can get into them. Documentary. Yeah, this is not really my thing, guys. Are there documentaries about interesting subjects that I could potentially be invested in? Yeah, maybe. But it's just like I'm never in the mood to watch a documentary, you know? And I know there are documentaries on like the making of certain movies and films that I love, And I don't know, to me, I'm just like, I'd just rather watch the movie again, you know? So nothing against documentaries. I think that they're incredible for what they go for, and there are some really well-made ones. And there are tons of people who love documentaries. So, you know, take my opinion with a grain of salt. This is just my preference. Not usually my thing, but if it's your thing, dude, more power to you. Coming of age. Again, interesting that this is like its own genre on this list, because a lot of times these fall within like, I mean, this gets grouped in with like every category, right? You can have coming of age adventure, fantasy, heck, thriller, horror, sci-fi, you know? But as far as like a coming of age story, I like these type of movies. I think it could be average. I'm trying to think of like, all the coming of age stuff that I'm thinking of is like other genres, you know? But I just know that like when it's incorporated into other genre movies that I enjoy them. So, I mean, I'd say average. And then finally, sports. So I'm not a sports guy at all. I don't watch sports at all. I played like soccer when I was like 7 years old or something, but I never really like got into it hardcore. The interesting thing is I'm not inherently interested in sports movies. However, one of my favorite movies of all time is Rocky. And there are other sports movies that I've really enjoyed. I think of like the movie Air, with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I really enjoyed that movie. So even though like I'm not into sports whatsoever, like in general, sports movies, hit and miss. They can be good. They can be really good, actually. Wow. So this is my tier list right now. So horror and sci-fi, my absolute favorite genres of all time. Adventure, fantasy, mystery, thrillers. I can get into all of that. I enjoy those. Action, drama, romance, coming of age. It's average. It can be really good, or it can just be kind of mid, whatever. Hit and miss. You know, westerns, war movies, crime, comedy, musical, slice of life, and sports. Within those genres, there are films that are incredible and a lot of films that I don't care about. And then documentaries are just not my thing at all. But yeah, so maybe this gives you a little bit more of an idea of what my tastes are as a movie fan. Again, I will watch almost anything. This is just more along the, like, what my preferences kind of lie. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave some comments, let me know your favorite genres, and thanks for stopping by the lounge, and I'll catch you next time.